Dude, work this week. So I worked some overtime down at a different station.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm normally at Squad 14, but I went to Engine 8 for some overtime.
Nice.
They have jet skis there because it butts up to the key. And
This is the beach station.
well, it's not the beach station, but it's on the peninsula, Itinerary Point.
Gotcha.
So that point has got water obviously on either side of it. So
Nice.
they have jet ski there. They actually have two skis there. And when I came in the morning, they're like, "You guys want to go to the gym?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want to go to the gym." Well, the 19 called, which is actually on the key.
Gotcha.
They're one of the beach stations out of the two with our department.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, "Yeah, we're going to do water rescue training today." I'm like, "Oh, yes." So we took the skis out and played for, well, I shouldn't say play. We trained for about, we worked for about 4 hours of just evolution after evolution. And I haven't done a ton of water rescue training, but it got me thinking with your background in rescue swimming and stuff. That water is so humbling. Like we had a pretty good chop. Even past the second break, it was still some pretty good, like 3-4 foot rollers.
Yeah.
And when you get in that water, man, it's like, one, it wears you out. And two, it was very, very humbling.
The water is an equalizer.
It is. Yeah. I was very humbled. So I'm going to make it a goal for myself to get in the water a lot more.
Yeah.
Like we're surrounded by water, so I should probably be a better swimmer.
Yeah, you would think. I mean, you don't necessarily have to be the best swimmer, but just be able to save yourself at the least. I think.
Mm-hmm. But I think I did probably 8 or 9 like rescues with the ski and like getting the mannequin and those. I think you guys probably use the same type of mannequin. It's like an orange thing and like a tarp.
We normally use another guy.
Another guy?
Buddy. Yeah.
But that thing, when it fills up with water, like, because when you first put it out there, it's pretty light. But as the water saturates it, I think it's probably around 160 to 180 pounds. But it's still rigid. I did one or so with a real person, and it's completely different with a fly set person.
Yeah.
Getting them on that board.
Yeah, we almost exclusively used real people in the water.
Yeah.
On land, we had a dummy that was like 200-ish pounds, I think.
Okay.
But in the water, it was always a person.
Yeah, it was an awesome time. And then driving that ski in the surf, man. Like, I've driven jet skis and stuff before.
I didn't get to do that.
Yeah, that is a blast. So I had an awesome time. I wouldn't be upset if I got moved to a station just to be able to do that. But like I was telling some of those guys, I'm like, if I was stationed here, I would be in the water like every morning before shift.
Yeah.
Just because why not? Like, it's right there.
Absolutely.
I might as well swim some more and
be doing beach runs.
Yeah.
Surf swims.
Yeah. Like, I want to be way more proficient in the water if I was going to be at those stations. So, but yeah, it was an awesome time.
Need a coach, man.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I might know somebody who knows how to swim. So we will, at Suffer Up here, we will be getting in the water at some point here soon.
Yep.
So welcome back to the Suffer Up podcast, guys, with Nate and Ryan. We are super excited about what has been going on here. And we're excited today to be talking to you guys about some more topics regarding mental toughness, dealing with life's trials, and how you respond to conflict. So yeah, first of all, I want to just go ahead and reach out to Sofsocs, our sponsors. So they have partnered with us, and we love their socks. A toe sock that is form-fitting to your foot, helps with blister prevention and everything else. We've absolutely loved their socks. I've been running in them now exclusively.
I'm on my feet right now.
Yeah, check it out. He's got the orange ones.
Yep.
So we have absolutely loved them. And a couple of the listeners have reached out to me and said they've already purchased a pair and they're waiting for them to come out. Or come to their mailbox. So super excited to be partnered with them. We've really enjoyed their socks and they've really helped with my overall foot health. So we also have a discount code for those of you who are listening who would like to try out a pair of these socks, and it is Suffer10. So when you go to checkout, just use Suffer10 in the checkout, and it will take 10% off of your order.
It's a good deal.
Yep. Awesome people, and we've been very happy with their product, and very thankful for them partnering with us.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, so we're going to just go ahead and dive into it today. We have on the agenda mental toughness, dealing with life's trials, and how you respond to conflict. So, mental toughness, what does that mean?
And I think a lot of people get this very confused with, there's a difference in being tough and being like a strong individual. I think a lot of people like to think of toughness as like, oh, you're just some tough guy. You just let everything roll off your back and just keep pushing forward. And I think that there's value in that, but you can't do that with everything in life.
Right.
You can't just shrug everything off and push on. Your kid gets cancer or something awful happens like that. Man, you can't just shrug that off.
No.
You can't just put the blinders on and focus on something else. You got to actually deal with it. So what is mental toughness, and how do we deal with things that come up?
Yeah. I think too with that it's a hypersensitivity of being like hyper aware.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you could be I don't think necessarily being the rough and tough guy that's like just a bulldozer. That's just like, no, just, you'll be fine. Just push on. Like, yes, there's an element to that. But I think it's just being super aware of what's going on in your mind and what's going on with your body. If you've got a little hitch in your giddy up,
Yeah.
like how's that going to affect you? And being able to take that little bit, like ease back just a little bit, but being smart. You shared something with me this week about a guy that was like in his 60s or so that was talking about longevity and how he was just pushing through and doing all these races and stuff. And like, it's not about necessarily going super hard like all the time. But he consistently was just showing up and doing these endurance races.
Yeah. Yeah. Just the idea of being tough isn't about necessarily right here, right now. Like you want to be tough for life. So you gotta train accordingly. Like if you just try and go out, and we could all probably go out and run a faster 5K than what we've done in the past. You could do anything once, the saying goes. But is that going to be beneficial to you? Are you going to, give yourself shin splints, or are you going to hurt yourself in the process and make the long term more difficult because you're pushing too hard right now and just, I'm just sucking it up and going to be tough right now.
Yeah.
Well, you can actually injure yourself and not do what's best long term for you by doing that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I like back to the original point that I brought up was the being hyper aware of like just that steadfastness, right? We encounter different things in life that we, different trials, different struggles, different, things that might slow us down or set us back. But just know it's all part of the process, right? So you are faced with, man, I'm sick, or I had a surgery or whatever. It's okay. Like sometimes you have to stop and just rest and just move on, right? But it doesn't mean that you're now not mentally tough because you can't push through it, right? But in the good times, like we talked about in one of the previous episodes, but in the good times when things are going well, things are going, you feel strong, you're healthy, you're preparing yourself now for the time when you're not going to feel so good. So you can turn it on. But there's also another element to that we'll just kind of touch on is I've heard it in the fire service before of like, well, I can turn it on game day. Like I don't work out on shift at all, but I can turn it on game day.
Yeah.
Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a bit of complacency coming in.
Mm-hmm.
You made it through your fire service training and now you're a firefighter or whatever it was that you did. Like you made it to some level and you think that you're good because, I trained on that before.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm good. When it happens, I'll be ready. Well, just like you said, that you get out there in the water and you got a lot to learn.
I wasn't ready.
I mean, and if you did all that this week and you felt way more prepared, like now you probably feel more prepared than you did training in the water. And then you don't touch the water again for another year, you're going to get back out there and you're going to feel just like you did this time. Like just because you've done it one time a year ago, that doesn't mean you're ready.
No, yeah.
Not at all.
Did you have any of that in the Navy of guys that were just that apathetic?
I had guys like that wanted to be like that, but the job that I did, we did a really good job, I think, of continuously training.
Yeah.
Throughout the year, we would have different tests and different things that we had to do, qualifications that we had to like re-up on. So it seemed like all year long, we were always training for something. It was just one thing into the next. If we were working on our search and rescue, we trained for that for a few months, have our big test. and then we'd roll into the next thing. We're going to train on whatever's next. That kind of kept us all in the training mindset and helped with the complacency.
Yeah.
But you could still end up getting complacent in certain aspects. We just finished our search and rescue training, so now guys don't want to touch it for the next 3 months. They don't want to get in the pool. So that was kind of the battle there, was how do we keep up with that training, even though we're focusing hard on the thing that's next.
Sure.
But as a whole, I think we kept a training mindset, which definitely paid off in the end. Because I think that's one of the hardest things for people to keep in their mind. You go to school, you go to college, you get a degree, you graduate. Now you're not learning anymore. A lot of people want to stop learning.
Sure.
Well, you're always going to be learning. There's always something new to learn, or there's always stuff to relearn because you can't remember it all.
Right.
So you should be revisiting and relearning these things and learning new things along the way. And I think that's what people struggle with most, probably, is just getting complacent and like, nope, I know it, I'm good.
Yeah. That's a really good point. But did you find that, at least in the fire service, when you've got like one guy in the crew that is just maybe overzealous, like that eager beaver, I find that if you have at least one guy that's that way and can kind of boost the energy of the crew, it really kind of, even if it's a brand new guy, like brand spanking new right out of recruit school, it really kind of helps improve the energy within the room, and did you guys have a guy like that was just over the top? Like, sometimes you probably had to smack him like, dude, calm down, your time's coming.
Yeah, well, like I said, we trained on a lot of different things. The job that I did had a lot of different elements to it, and we made it a point to have one person was the subject matter expert in each element, and so it was kind of that guy's job to be the motivator for that task.
Okay.
Like I served as the search and rescue petty officer at my squadron for my last couple of years there, and so it was my job to be the motivator of like, hey guys, we're doing a pool training day this Friday.
Yeah.
And you got to find creative ways to motivate people to go to that, or maybe we force them to go, but motivate them to want to be there and want to actually put in the effort and try.
Yeah.
So you make it fun. We have competition, stuff like that. That competition generally encourages people to try harder.
At least in our line of work, right?
Nobody wants to be the weak guy or the slow guy. Yeah. And if you are the weak guy or the slow guy, you're going to get made fun of for it.
Yeah.
So, in a good way.
Yeah. So it's funny you said like competition. So I just started something at my station, and it was basically you have a list of tasks, whatever they may be, whether it be force entry, mask up, stretch a line, flow, whatever. And then you have so like if I challenge you to a mask up drill, then you're going to do the mask up drill for time.
Okay.
If I challenge you, you pick the punishment, whatever that may be.
I like it.
So there's like a list of punishments on the board. Some of them being an ice bath. There's a lot. I enjoy ice baths.
I was going to say, you got to find one that somebody hates.
And one of them is like buying ice cream for the crew. 25.
The punishment for you would be swimming.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No. So, so we have that one and like 25 burpee pull-ups. Something, or one of them that really stinks is doing the bear crawl all the way around the firehouse.
Yeah, that sucks.
So it's almost a quarter mile. That one's pretty brutal. Walking lunges with dumbbells. Anyway, so we got a list of punishments, and you can come up with whatever punishment you want. And then if you challenge, you can challenge an officer. But if you challenge the officer, your punishment's double.
Ooh.
Yeah. So let me tell you, it has definitely helped like build, because naturally it almost like your adrenaline goes up just a little bit because there's some skin in the game.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I better not mess this up.
Yep. So
it's been really good to add that.
I think that's a good point. Like having skin in the game definitely encourages you to continue training. I mean, like for us as rescue swimmers, our job was our skin in the game.
Yeah.
You want to keep doing this job, you're going to keep training and know your stuff. I think a lot of jobs out there maybe aren't as strict on that.
Sure.
And kind of allow for people to slack off and become complacent with no repercussions. So they've got no skin in the game, and so they just settle.
Yeah.
So I think if you're in a job like that, you need to find your own way to put your skin in the game and find something that's going to motivate you, because even if you're working a desk job as an accountant or something, maybe there's maybe you can talk to your boss and see if there's like a bonus that you could get if you reach whatever goal it is.
Yeah.
Get some skin in the game and have some motivation to be better and continue learning and doing your best.
Yeah. No, that's really good. I was actually going to lead that into a question of like, how do we apply this to corporate America? You know,
there's one example.
Yeah, one example. And like, if you're a supervisor, manager, whatever, listening to this, learn your employees. Like, what makes them tick? You know,
some people are money driven.
Yeah, some are money driven. Some are like,
might just be a free coffee if you nail a sale yesterday or something. I mean,
and it also shows appreciation.
Yep.
You know, like you value your employees, you value who they are, because without them, you don't have a job.
Absolutely.
Like, think about that. You know, you might be, you know, the big guy in charge, but if you don't have minions, then you don't have a job.
Yeah.
If you don't have people to manage, you don't have a job.
You're going to have to do it all.
Yeah, or you're going to have to do it all.
I don't want to do that.
No. So that's, incentivize things and make it worth people's time.
Yeah, find creative ways to train. Training is required in some jobs. Training is not required in others, but it should be.
Yeah.
So incentivize training, or find creative ways to make training fun and get people's skin in the game.
Yeah. I think of like the episode of The Office when they're doing like you got this misfit office personnel and they're in there and they're doing training on CPR. Have you seen that episode?
I have not.
Okay. Well, they do this and they, it's like awkward but everybody got super involved. And at one point he's like, we have to do a heart massage. And then the guy rips a knife out and like cuts the dummy open or whatever. And like, but if you look at that specific episode, the leader of the training basically made it fun for them, and they're getting all involved. As soon as you see,
they're all going to remember that training.
Yeah, but there's participation there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. A lot of times, sit back. Oh boy, another training. Here we go. Another PowerPoint. No, just make it engaging and make it get people involved.
And for those of you that maybe don't have a boss that is encouraging you to train or something, know that there's also a personal aspect to it. The harder you work at something, the more you are going to enjoy it. You know, if you train for something and then you accomplish that, man, that feels so good. You know that your training paid off. You know that it was all worth it at that point.
Yeah.
So even if the guy above you isn't incentivizing it, or there's no way for you to, monetarily benefit from this or something, there's still a mental aspect to it. That's the mental toughness side that, you're just doing it because you know that it's going to make you better.
Right.
You're suffering to level up.
Yeah.
You're doing this on purpose.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I know for me too, when I've trained and equipped myself for whatever, you can apply it to anything.
Yeah.
When I then am faced with it, I'm like, oh, heck yeah, let's go. Because I've got it. Like I've trained it, I've worked on it. Like, okay, let's go. Then that was my time to shine. Let's get after it and let's do it.
You train in the hard times. Yep. So that the hard times are easier.
Yes. Yeah. It just makes everything easier.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that is literally the element of mental toughness, of doing the things you don't want to do, getting up, showing up, and doing what needs to be done. But then also being able to prepare yourself, prepare your mind, prepare your body, prepare your heart, so that when you're faced with things, you're ready to go.
Yeah.
And it's just, you're locked in. Like, you don't even have to think. You're just like, yep, I've faced this before. I've felt this before. Like when you're running, I had this when I was on the track yesterday. Make running a family thing, by the way, guys. I felt so bad.
Exercise in general.
Going
family walk.
Yeah. And I felt bad because I do all these runs by myself, and some of them now are taking a couple hours. I'm like, that's 2 hours away from the family. Sunday afternoon, loaded the kids up, packed a picnic dinner. We went to the track, and they had a picnic while I ran. And I would stop for a minute. I would eat something because they're eating dinner. It's really dinner time. So I'd eat something. I'm like, oh, I'll use this as an opportunity to train my stomach while I'm running.
Yeah.
Well, I got a pretty bad side cramp during one of the 800s I was doing. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. Old Nate would have stopped. But I didn't stop. But then all of a sudden, ironically enough, the side cramp went away.
Yep.
And now when I face that in a race, I'm like, okay, I know that if I just push through this little bit.
Yeah. Maybe you have to slow down a little bit. Yeah. And that's okay. But you keep going.
You keep going. Exactly. And so I just kind of just kept plugging along. I did slow down. I was locked in at about a 7:30 pace, and then bumped down to about an 8:30 pace, and then I'm like, okay, I pushed through that, and then it just went away.
Yeah.
Like,
Now you're good.
now you're good. But now I know in a race, if that happens, I'm like, this soon will pass.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's building that mental toughness, that mental resiliency of, now that you can do it. Now take that also, be cautious, where if you feel like you are tearing a ligament in your knee, just stop, guys. Like, we're not saying break your body.
This goes back to what we said at the beginning. Like, you don't have to be a tough guy for everything. There's a difference in pushing to your limits, or maybe just past them.
Yeah.
And then actually like pushing yourself way past that and doing damage.
Yeah. So you kind of hit on the physical aspect of it, but the mental aspect of it, I think, kind of ties in here.
Yeah.
Of being able to allow your mind to not quit on you. I think quitting, we talked about that in a previous episode.
Yeah.
Quitting is not really okay, but your version of quitting could be different, right? If you set a goal out to try to hit something, try to hit your mark. But what would how would the spiritual aspect tie into this as far as building resiliency and toughness? I have an example, but let's see what my example would be. One thing I wish I would do more of is memorizing scripture.
Yeah.
I spend time in my Bible, and I read and I understand the concepts, and I try the best that I can. I fail oftentimes of living out my faith, but I don't. Somebody will bring something up, and I'm like, oh yeah, that passage of scripture. Where is it?
Yeah. Wouldn't it be neat if we could just recall a passage of scripture for almost every circumstance? Because there's probably a passage of scripture that applies to every circumstance.
Right. But they're not as readily available in my mind as I wish they were.
Yeah.
And I prioritize a lot of other things in life, but I don't prioritize that like I should. Memorizing scripture in like a verse a week or something. So I think, but that would build the mental resiliency in my spiritual life.
Yeah.
I
was going to say prayer. I think a lot of people use prayer as kind of a last resort. You get a stomach ache or something, and you take medicine, or you go lay down.
Yeah.
You do 100 other things before you are finally forced to. You have to go to the hospital. Like, if you had a really bad stomach ache, something was wrong, you had to go to the hospital, and finally you get to this point of like, I don't know what else to do, and then you pray.
Yeah.
Well, why is prayer not your first resort?
Yeah.
Why as soon as we get that stomach ache, are we not like, man, God, please help us go away. Please, let it just be gas or whatever it is, man. Like, let this be easy and let it pass. But a lot of times we just wait until things are as bad as they can possibly get before we start praying and asking for help from the person that can help everything.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, lean on him in the good times and the bad times.
Yeah.
We sometimes have joked about the jailhouse Christianity. When things are bad, you always go crying to God, but when things are good, you almost kind of forget about him a little bit.
Isn't that sad?
That's not the way that it should be. So, but yeah, mental toughness in all three areas is something that will kind of be the common trend, if you will, here at Suffer Up. We try to kind of hit on it. And as we navigate this podcast and recordings and whatnot, we're going to probably touch on that a good bit, but it'll lay a good foundation as far as where we stand on what mental toughness looks like.
Yeah.
And that you don't always have to be Mr. Tough Guy. And I'm constantly developing and growing that aspect. I'm constantly suffering through different points. So I'm like, man, I was so weak today in my mind. Like I just decided not to run, or I just decided not to do anything.
I think people like us and our listeners who want to be better and want to improve their life, I think that we're all always going to kind of beat ourselves up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because we're striving to be better. We want to be better. We want to do more. But there's a time and a place for that. And you can't just live life in that tough guy mentality thinking, oh, I should be able to do that. I should be able to do this. Like, cut yourself a little slack.
Yeah.
Give yourself a break and just know that with time, all things are possible.
Yeah.
Or most things are possible. With God, all things are possible.
All things are possible, yeah.
And so, you don't have to be able to run a marathon right now, or you don't have to be able to be the best sales guy on your team right now.
Yeah.
Keep working at it.
Yeah.
That's where you build the mental toughness. It's not just saying, "Oh, I should be able to do this," and then kicking yourself. That's not building mental toughness. That's just bullying yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, we can be our own worst enemies. We can get it in our way a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A friend of mine likes to use the word shame. Like, these are just shame words. Anytime that you say, "I should be able to do this," or I shouldn't. It's a good example. Like, I should be able to lift 200 pounds today because I've done it before. Well, that's a shame word. You're just shaming yourself because you think that you should be able to do something. When in reality, there's probably a reason. Either maybe you worked out hard yesterday and now you're sore, so you can't do it. Maybe you didn't get a good night's sleep. There's a bunch of different reasons that could not be possible today, but was another day. So you're just shaming yourself. And what benefit does that do? Is there a good that comes from that? Probably not.
Yeah.
Some days you physically may not be able to do what you physically think you should be able to.
Right.
So you can push yourself without shaming yourself. And I think that's a fine line.
It is a fine, yeah.
But it's definitely a line that needs to be drawn because there's no benefit to doing that.
Right. Yeah. And the, like to all of that would be, if you go into whatever you're about to go into, whether it be a run, a lift, a race, whatever, and you're already shaming yourself at the beginning. No.
How's that race going to go?
It's going to go bad because you've now just told yourself, you've now accepted defeat and it hasn't even started.
Yeah.
Now you get in the race and you're like, hey, I'm going to push all that stuff to the side, or a challenge or whatever. I'm going to push all that to the side. I'm going to focus on the tasks that I have right now.
Compartmentalize it. Yeah.
And I'm going to conquer it. I'm going to get after it. And I'm going to be present in this moment right now. And I'm going to do everything I can to accomplish what's in front of me right now. And when it's done, you look back at the outcome, you're like, you can either be proud of it because of the situation that you had. You can talk about your pains afterwards. And then you're like, okay, that's done. What's the next thing? It's done. It's done. You can, enjoy the moment.
There's like two extremes there before the race. You can either be shaming yourself and going, "Oh, I should be able to do this. I can do this." There's no reason that I shouldn't be able to do whatever it is. Or there's the other extreme of, I didn't sleep well last night. I didn't eat like I was supposed to. I don't feel good. I'm not gonna do well. And either way, one, you're just shaming yourself and making yourself feel bad because, like, if you don't do that, then you're gonna hate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The other way, you're looking at yourself going, "Oh, I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm no good today because of X, Y, and Z." Either one of those are equally as bad for you.
Yeah.
And a lot of people realize that excuses, like making excuses for yourself, that's not good.
No.
But they don't realize the shame side of it either. So either one of those, the answer is what you said: compartmentalize it.
Yeah.
Push that to the side. Don't think about it. Think about the here and now. Be present.
Yep.
What can I do right now to do my best?
Yeah. No, that's. Yeah, and I'm guilty of it too. Of like, it's in the back of your head always.
Yeah.
Like, it's always there.
Because we're finish line oriented.
Yeah.
If you go to run a race, you're thinking, what's my time going to be at the end?
Yeah.
Not how fast do I need to run right this second?
Yeah.
I mean, that's in your mind. You're thinking, oh, in order to run, whatever, I need to run a 6-minute mile.
Yeah.
So you're thinking, oh, I got to keep the 6-minute pace. But you're really thinking about the end result instead of the here and now. How do I feel right now? How can I push my body to go as far as I can right now, knowing that I've got more coming up, but I need to focus on my stride right now, my breathing right now.
Yep.
All that will carry over as the race
One
continues.
step at a time. Yep. Yeah, it's so true. And it's like, I know I'm guilty of it, of not being able to push it to the back of my head.
Yeah.
But that's a training. Like, you have to be able to train yourself to do that,
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think we're naturally equipped with that programming.
I think we talked about this in another episode recently about train how you fight. That's how you're going to fight race day, is no matter what's happened the night before, you're going to give it your best. And you shouldn't be thinking about the end result as much as you should be thinking about giving it your best in the moment. So you need to practice that same thing in training.
Yeah.
That's how you build the mental resilience and toughness, is you do the same thing in training.
Yeah. No, it's solid. And so, like, with that complex, if you will, I would put that under worry, right? You're worried about the results. You're worried about the outcome. You're worried about what's going to happen. You don't know. Each race or challenge or trial or You can apply this anywhere in
you're worried
life.
about how people are going to look at you or view you.
Yeah.
It's all worry.
It's all under worry, right? And so we can worry about every little thing, like, oh, am I going to have enough money this month? Is the car going to start? Am I going to have a job next week? All those are worries, right?
Yep.
But you always have to focus on one step at a time. What's right in front of you right now? How are you going to accomplish said task? How are you going to proceed with everything in life, right? Well, when I got to kind of preparing for this podcast, I'm like, worry, what does that look like? So I turned to scripture, and in Philippians 4, starting in verse 4, it says, "Rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God." So that ties literally right back to what you're talking about with prayer, right?
By prayer and supplication.
Prayer and supplication. And let your requests be made. God wants to know your request. Now, your prayers shouldn't always be like asking God for favors all the time. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that God wants to hear those things. He wants to hear what's going on.
Well,
like
it said by prayer and supplication, always what? Always
let
giving thanks.
Yep, giving thanks, and let your request be made known unto God. Yep.
So I saw something recently, I think it was on social media probably, that said, if God answered every prayer request that you had given in the last 7 days, how different would your life look right now? For a lot of us, probably not very different at all, because we're probably not asking God for enough. And I don't mean like $1 million, but God, I pray that, my family and I have health for the rest of our life, and that I can continue exercising the way that I do. Like, how often do we ask for things that are good? I asked for this podcast to touch millions of people. I mean, like, how often do we not ask for things? Instead, we just come to God and say, thank you for this day. Thank you for this meal. Maybe let it nourish our bodies, and that's it.
Yeah.
Which there's nothing wrong with that. We should absolutely be thankful, but there's also nothing wrong with asking for good, godly things.
Yeah.
That's what we're supposed to do.
Right. And I also, with that in mind, a lot of times we can pray and ask God for whatever.
Yeah.
But it's also, God knows what we need.
Yeah.
He's going to give us what we need. And it might be not right now, Nate. Not right now. Now's not the right time. Everything in timing, right? It's like a trend right here. So we can pray and ask God for all these things, but then how is that? It might not be what God wants right now for you.
Yeah. So that word supplication that was used in that verse, the meaning of that is the action of asking or begging for something earnestly or humbly. So it's the act of asking.
Yeah.
But you're asking in the right way for the right reasons.
Yeah.
I'm asking earnestly, God, I want this podcast to reach millions of people. I want this to change lives.
Yeah.
I want this to bring people to you. That is very different than, God, I want this podcast to grow so I can quit my job and just be a social media influencer.
Sure. That's not
May that be a byproduct in 10 years? Maybe.
I
don't know, man. But that's not the purpose of it. That's not why we ask for what we ask.
Yeah. And I mean, even at the beginning of this recording, when we were sitting here hashing everything out, Ryan and I both looked at each other and we're like, dude, we need this podcast just as much as, I've thoroughly enjoyed just sitting here in the shop and just talking.
Yeah, we thought about naming this podcast Therapy Sessions or something.
Yeah, Therapy Sessions, because trust me, you listeners, we need this just as much as...
This is 100% for us as much as it is for you guys.
Yeah, so we're just so thankful to be able to have this. But naturally, there's always worry with, how is this podcast going to do? How, am I going to be doing firefighting for the next 20 years? What? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not in control of those things. But what I can control is when I show up to work, I'm going to have a positive attitude. I'm going to pour into the guys around me. I'm going to try to serve others over myself. And I always have these 3 things that I say. What did I do to make myself better today? What did I do to make my crew better today? And what did I do to make my station, territory, or apparatus better today? Because those 3 things serve the community, right? In the fire service. So apply that to your life. What did I do to make myself better? Whatever that is. What did I do to make others around me better? And what did I do to make my environment? You could apply environment there.
Yeah.
Environment better.
Absolutely.
If you can accomplish those 3 things, those 3 objectives or goals every day, you're living a fulfilled life.
Yeah.
As long as God's in it.
And if you're asking God, if you're coming to God with supplication and asking for those three things earnestly and humbly, then I think that those are three things that he would be more than happy to bless. You know, I mean, those are the kind of good things that he wants us to ask.
Right.
Not, how do I get more money?
Yeah.
That's not the point.
Yeah. And I know in my life too, applying all this, when my walk is strong with God and I'm constantly spending time with him, when my heart is right, my requests are different than when they're not. Like when my heart is right, my requests are more in line with what he would have for me. So we could totally get way into this for like a couple hours, but I think for those of you who are listening, just pray and ask him for whatever it is that you're needing. Ultimately, we need redeeming faith and salvation above all. However, if you live the Christian life, live it day by day, and just move with a purpose to honor him in all that you do, in your actions, your speech, your words, and then you'll live that fulfilled life.
Yeah, do that every day. Train it like you would anything else. And then when a challenge or a struggle comes along, you're not just coming to God asking for some miracle to happen. You're just doing what you do every day.
Yeah. So yeah, I love that. No, we also kind of had like 3 bullet points with this one, but I love that we're just rocking and rolling, man. Like rabbit holes, let's go.
Well, it feels more natural to talk about.
Yeah, it does. So with all of this, right? So we're reading a book right now in our small group at church called Disciplines of a Godly Man.
Yeah.
By Kent Hughes. Phenomenal book. But the overall trend of the book is being disciplined, but I think another word you could insert there is regimented, right? So the book goes through a bunch of things, and this last week it was about how do you have regiment in your work? Like, what does work look like? And so with work and honoring him in your work and all this other stuff, I got to thinking about how do you build a regimented day? So like in the military, you guys obviously had a regimented day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And with like you probably woke up at a certain time, you had muster at a certain time, like all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And how did you feel kind of knowing what was coming each and every day? And how did that ultimately impact how you performed? Like performance based, like, does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, it takes a lot of the stress and thought out of the equation.
Yeah.
You wake up in the morning, you don't have to decide what you're going to wear.
Yep.
You don't have to decide where you're going to go or when you're going to be there. All those things are decided for you,
Sure.
Which is something that a lot of people hate about the military. I found myself hating it at some points too, because it's like, man, these people rule my life. They dictate everything. And they do to a certain extent, but all those things are meant to relieve that stress and pressure, and you know what you're going to wear, where you're going to be, what you're going to do, because there's a plan of the day before, and there's a plan of the week for the whole week as far as what our objectives are this week, what we're going to work on, and all that stuff is set up. So, you love it and you hate it.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's a very good way to run something and to train for something, because everybody's on the same page. Everybody knows what the expectations are, and everybody knows that there's repercussions if you don't uphold those expectations. So I think it's definitely a valuable training tool. And one of the best things that I got out of it was just consistency.
Yeah.
There wasn't a day that you woke up and you're like, man, I'm not feeling it today. I'm just going to, I'll try this again in an hour after I snooze. No, you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Or, pool training scheduled for Friday. I really don't want to do that this Friday. I'd rather go to the shop and work on something else. No, you got to go do pool training.
Yeah.
It's mandatory.
Yeah.
So that consistency helps you build that mental toughness. You're doing something that you maybe don't want to do,
right?
But you're doing it anyways.
Yeah.
And we talked about that in another episode too, about doing things that you don't want to do, that actually grows your brain.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of value in that.
Yeah. And I mean, in the military, it's like you didn't really have a choice. Like what they told you to do is what you did, and you said, "I sir," and you went and did it, right?
Yeah.
But
until you get to a certain point, and then
sure,
you're the
yeah.
guy. Then you're the guy that's telling other people what to do, and everybody's like, "Man, I hate you."
I'm deciding what we're doing today.
Yeah.
But you get to earn that,
Yeah.
like you earn that through your actions and performance and everything.
Absolutely.
They didn't just promote
Yeah,
you.
like I was saying, when I was the petty officer for our search and rescue program, I was the one coming up with the pool workouts.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes the guys were like, "Oh, this is fun." Sometimes they were like, "Dude, I hate you right now. This is tough."
Yeah.
But that's the point.
Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah, and I mean, throughout the day, like you kind of alluded to, if you know, okay, I've got this going on today, I don't really want to go to this meeting. I don't want to go to this in service. I don't want to do this run, but you got to do it anyway. The more and more that you force yourself to just kind of, well, this sounds really bad, but suck it up and just do it, then like, okay, that's done. On to the next thing. But I think through small actions that you can do every single day in the morning, it's almost like it makes things easier. Like for us in our house, we set clothes out the day before church, right? Because Sunday mornings should be like the most chill mornings, and they are to some degree, but it's like, okay, my son's got to get dressed. My daughter's got to get dressed. I got to feed them. I got to make sure they got their water bottles, make sure everything's squared away, and then we get in the car and then we go. And a lot of times Sunday mornings can be super stressful. But so then I looked at my wife and I'm like, we got to do something different. So we try really hard to set clothes out the night before because now we're preparing for the next day. And I got to thinking, I'm like, well, I kind of do that indirectly anyway. Like this morning, I knew I was coming here for this podcast. So I had my backpack ready with the laptop and everything that I needed and the case. And everything was laid out and it was ready to go next to the coffee pot. So all I had to do was make my coffee.
You prepared for it.
I prepared for it, you know?
Which is the same as training for something.
Yeah.
I mean, you're training, you're preparing.
Yeah.
For the real deal.
And then I was reminded of, there's a speech of, I believe he's a Navy SEAL commander. He talks about making your bed.
Yeah.
And like success starts with making your bed.
I think he's got a whole book.
He does.
Called Make Your Bed.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. That's right. But on one of the graduations or something, I'm going to butcher this if anybody knows what video I'm talking about. But I just came in my mind. Like he talks about making your bed and how successful people make their bed. And you look at other articles and books and stuff of like habits of highly effective people and stuff. They are so regimented. They know exactly what they're going to do the next every single hour on the hour. Like I've got a couple friends who are in like the finance world and they're so organized with their Excel spreadsheets and all this stuff, but they're efficient because they know, okay, these are the expectations for the day. I have to get them done. Now, on the flip side, some of those people, when they don't hit it, it throws them into a tizzy. Like they can't recover. And so if you have a plan for the day, you can be like free-spirited or whatever. If that works for you, okay, but I'd encourage you to at least try this. But be regimented with your day.
At least a morning routine.
Yeah.
I think is mandatory because the whole premise behind that make your bed thing is that it starts with a little win.
Yep.
So if you have a morning routine and you say, I'm going to wake up in the morning, I'm going to make my bed, I'm going to make coffee, I'm going to do 10 push-ups.
Yep.
And then I'm going to get dressed for the day. Okay. If you do those three things, you make your bed, you make coffee, you do your 10 push-ups, you just won 3 times.
Yep.
You've done something that you told yourself that you were going to do, and you did it. So that's 3 little wins. That's starting the day off right there. And if you practice this every day, there's going to be a day where you wake up late and you don't have time to do 2 of those things or something. That's not the end of the world. Like Nate said, that's, some people can throw them into a tizzy, but that's good. That's good that happens on a regular day.
Yeah.
Because that's training. That's training for the day that it doesn't all go right. And, that's building that mental fortitude of, okay, what am I not going to do? How am I going to flex and still make this work out?
Yeah.
So that there's a lot of value in that, not just the little wins, but on the days that you don't get the wins, there's still, we talked about this in another episode, like that's a fail. You failed your 3 objectives in the morning, but you still learn from that.
Yeah.
There's still so much training value, potentially more training value in that than actually doing the 3 things.
Yeah. No, and so, I don't have anything to add to that. That's good. No, that's perfect. But
I think we both have morning routines.
Yeah, we do.
And mine involves my kids. They I get them up and get them ready for school and take them and everything. And so, like my 8-year-old daughter, she has her routine of things that she does. And I recently just made her a little checklist because normally I just ask her, like, hey, did you brush your teeth? Did you go to the bathroom? You got your socks on, whatever. She loves to get dressed and not put socks on. So I have to specify that. We'll get ready to go out the door. I'm like, all right, get your shoes on. She's like, oh, I need socks. Yeah, you need those.
Yeah, free-spirited child. Huh?
Yeah, she is.
I love it.
But my point is, I just made her a checklist the other day, and she loves it. She loves going down the list and like, check, check, check. I did all these things. Like, I'm done, Daddy. Look. And I'm like, that's awesome, kid. You have completed everything that you need. I'm like, play with some toys or hang out.
Yep.
If I need something, I'll ask for some help.
Yeah.
And normally she doesn't want to play. Like, she's like, what can I help with, Dad?
Yeah.
But she has started her day off as best as she possibly can.
That's
she knows that she did everything she needed to do, and she's ready for the next thing. I think that that's a great way to live. And I'm not trying to take away her free spirit by regimenting this for her, but there's a ton of value in that. And I want her to get used to having a routine in the morning and doing things that are positive and starting the day off right.
Yeah.
And some days she wakes up late and she's like rushing around to do all those things. I'm like, it's okay. Just take your time. You know, this is the training. This is where the training comes in. You gotta focus on the present, the here and now, not think about, oh, I'm going to be late for school. No, don't worry about that. Just do what you need to do.
Yep.
Check off those items. And if you end up being late for school, then so be it. But, you know, I'm going to help you. We're doing this in a controlled environment.
Yep.
It's training.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm going to help you check off your stuff this morning because I know that you're late and rushing. But
yeah, that
is still great for her to see. And like, okay, Daddy's here to help me now, but you know, when I'm older, Daddy won't be here to help me. So I need to learn how to focus on here and now and not get so flustered and worry about everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like with that complex too, you naturally are going to have kind of like our last talking point that we have for today, but it ties in nicely is how do you deal with conflict? So there's really kind of two major forms of conflict. In my opinion, I'm sure there's more that we could like divulge on for like a complete 2, 3, 4 episodes because conflict is everywhere. But you have like an internal conflict and then you have an external, like interpersonal conflict. So like reflecting on the internal conflict of like kind of the trend of what we're talking about now.
Yeah, I think the interpersonal conflict is
a whole nother
subject for another day.
Yeah, we can totally dive into that another day and how
like the inside personal conflict.
Yeah. So, you know, we had this regimented day lined out like we're talking about, and you know, we're chugging along and something happens. I think a natural and normal response is you kind of beat yourself up. Like,
yeah, this comes full circle back to what we talked about in the beginning as far as you can either make excuses or shame yourself.
Yep.
But there is somewhere in the middle that you just focus on the next right thing. What can I do right here, right now that's going to get me towards the goal that I want?
Yeah.
May not actually get me there. I don't know.
Yeah.
We're not going to worry about that right now. We know that that's the next thing that needs to be done, and we'll work in that direction.
Yeah.
So we're going to keep doing that.
Yeah.
That goes back to compartmentalizing and focusing on right here, right now.
Yeah.
What do I have control of?
Right.
I think man, I lost it. What were you saying? Conflict.
Yeah.
That conflict is really a control issue.
Mm-hmm.
People feel like they lose control, and this is especially a big issue with people that are super regimented.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've got all the control, they've got all their checklists and everything. You've got to be able to adapt, be flexible, because you're not always going to have control. But it's how you respond to those things.
Yes,
that really shows your mental toughness. That really determines your mental toughness.
Just being that constant, steady state.
Yeah,
just nice, calm waters. You could ride the waves, like you could ride the rollers, you know, but I mean, you should ride the rollers. But I found even in the surf, like using this analogy and getting real deep.
Yeah.
When you try to fight those waves, you're not going to win. You just got to almost ride it. And then on the downward on that trough, you paddle like crazy.
I'm going to jump into this analogy with you.
No, go, yeah.
The wave might push you back a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you fight it, you're going to waste a bunch of energy and still get pushed back.
Yeah.
So why waste the energy? Let it push you back a little bit and then take advantage of the good that's after that.
Yep.
I'm going to ride the wave
that's
down
it.
And get a little farther
Once that white water's gone, then you got a little bit of a trough and you're like,
you didn't realize your surf training was going to relate so much, did you?
Dude, I didn't only take away a nice sunburn and
Which
some
you did take that
sore lats and really sore hamstrings from kicking in those fins, but I
Yeah.
also took away a beautiful metaphor.
There you go.
Yeah, I'll take it. That's a win.
Still lobster Nate.
Yeah, I am still kind of burnt. I feel a little bit better today, but that was my fault. I didn't think we'd be out there for so long, and we were. So, but no, that conflict inside. I know, like some of the guys that I work with, they'll say, "Oh, there goes Nate with his intrusive thoughts," because there's this inner dialogue that happens. Anybody who's been through things, and you're like, you got like the demon on one shoulder and you got the angel on the other shoulder that's telling you like, "Oh no, you suck. You're no good." And then you got the angel like, "No, you can do it. You can do it." But then you should really just be that brain right in the middle.
Yeah.
Don't gravitate one side or the other. Just lock in and just don't beat yourself up over a failure. Learn, grow, adapt, overcome, persevere, find that resilience, and just lock in and get it done. So, but yeah, no, it's a really deep topic. We'll get into the interpersonal conflict and how you respond on a later episode, because that's a whole nother rabbit hole that I want to bite it right now, but
don't do it.
Don't do it. So
we've reached our time.
Yeah, we have. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in for another episode of the Suffer Up podcast with Nate and Ryan.
Yeah,
today's been a pleasure.
If you guys want to reach out to us at any point in time, shoot us a message on Facebook or Instagram. Feel free to please leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcast or wherever you're listening. We've had a few people reach out to us personally with their testimonies, I guess you call it, of how this podcast is affecting them, and we love it. We love to hear that.
Yes.
That makes this all worth it. If we're just two dudes talking in a microphone and nobody listens, then this is pointless.
Yeah.
Maybe not pointless, but it doesn't have the effect that we want. We want this to reach people and change lives.
And I shared on Instagram, actually, like, guys, I'm pumped. Like, the energy that you guys have given back to us, like everything that you send to me or Ryan, like we share it because we're a team. And I'm not gonna just like, I keep things anonymous, but I share like, dude, this guy reached out and shared this. So I'm just gonna share like just two quick ones. One guy called me and said, "Hey man, love the podcast. You guys are doing awesome." And it's really encouraged me. He's on a weight loss journey right now. He's getting back in church. He's really focusing on time. He actually texted me this morning and was like, "Hey, I'm praying for you guys on the podcast. And I really love the episode about time and how, time around the dinner table. And I'm going to really focus on that and try to keep that more in my life." And
awesome.
Even on the firehouse table, like the new guys learn around the firehouse table a lot. And that's dedicated time. And he's an officer, so he's trying to implement that with his crew. Like,
that's great.
Absolutely awesome,
the
man.
Conversation that we had on the internet.
Yeah.
And God used that to inspire a guy to spend more quality time with the people around.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic. And then another guy reached out to me and he's like, "Hey man, I just wanted to say since we started listening to your podcast, it has motivated me to get back out there and running again. I just ran 2.5 miles this morning and just wanted to share. Thanks so much." The dude hasn't ran in a while, and he just went out there and he went out there and ran. And then I even challenged him and said, "Hey, you gonna sign up for a race?" He's like, "Yeah, but which one?" I said,
"Hey, start with 5K."
Yeah, well, he's gonna do a 5K with us in June.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's the plan anyway.
The Tater one.
Yeah, yeah. So we're gonna definitely look up and do a race with him. He's gonna come out there and run it with us.
That's awesome.
And then another one, a guy reached out to me and was like, "Hey, you guys really hit home with the couple episodes ago about mental toughness or whatever," and like he feels like his mind gets in the way, and he's in school right now, and he feels like he can't be successful because of his mind. Like that's the only thing getting in his way. And he was very encouraged by what we were saying. I'm like, man, that's awesome. And we're supposed to be meeting up in a couple of weeks to do a run together. And like the networking, man.
Well, hopefully he appreciates this episode, man.
Yeah.
Focus on the here and now. Don't worry about that goal.
That's it.
Just do your best right now.
So please, guys, keep them coming. It totally pumped us up and really encouraged us. And we had a goal to impact one life, and it's already impacted several. And success. We're going to check that off the box. We got to talk about a new goal. Thanks again, guys.
Like and share and
please
reach out, please.
Yep. Oh, also in the description there'll be a link to the Sofsocs.
Yes.
And with our discount code, and there'll also be a link in there for our link tree. It'll all be hyperlinked in the description. You can click on it, and you can check out our Instagram, Facebook, all the other platforms we're on, as well as other listening platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that good
And
stuff.
we should be coming to YouTube soon.
Soon.
Hopefully.
Yep, we're slowly growing this, guys. So thanks so much for listening to the Suffer Up podcast with Nate and Ryan.
Thank you, guys.